of the structure and pressure we put on ourselves, and coping mechanisms and distractions are a beautiful thing. Do be careful and make sure that you are focusing on your actual health, because our immune systems are impacted by the foods we're choosing to eat, the activities we're engaging in, the smoking and the drinking, and mental health is really powerfully tied to that. So do examine the coping mechanisms, knowing that mental health matters, but again, our immune systems have to be functioning at their best. So distract yourselves, find those coping mechanisms, but make sure you are focusing on mental health. Now, a little tip that I do give some individuals who are trying to figure out when might be the better times to use the distraction. If you're feeling good and you're feeling positive, that's when something like alcohol could possibly play a role, because it's going to amplify those feelings. But if you're feeling depressed or lonely or something that we would traditionally call, a more negative emotion, that is not the time to utilize alcohol. That's actually the misuse of a coping mechanism. And I'd say instead, find a way to really sit in those feelings, feel them, or possibly find a more productive way to engage that. But let's go now to Chad Atkins, the executive director of Paw Works. Chad, welcome to our show.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Chris.
You got somebody there with you. Who's with you?
I do. This is little Sarah. She's looking for adoption this weekend.
Oh, I'll take 5.
Right?
So let's talk a little bit about actually what you're doing right now in front of me, because I'm a pet owner and I'm also self-isolating by myself. And so I know for me, having my pet has been so helpful, just to have like movement and energy going throughout my home, but also what you're doing now, just the actual petting. So can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I mean, we are finding that, just having these animals around, it takes the focus off of all our anxiety and stress that we're experiencing right now with self-isolation. Also, we're not feeling alone. I mean, we're sitting there, we're able to touch. The touch therapy alone is good for the animal, but also good for us. So we're just finding that, people are wanting to adopt, they're wanting to foster, they're wanting to help these guys, because it really, in the end, kind of opens their heart up and, takes away a lot of what is going on in this world right now and the pandemic that we're experiencing.
I'm sorry, the adorableness of the dog. Yeah, and that's
I know
what's
it's such a
interesting.
focus on me.
It's selling itself. It's selling itself. It's so cute. It's interesting, right? Like as humans, we need touch, we need eye contact. That's really important. And so animals have the capacity to provide that. And, I've looked at tons of studies that talk about it really soothes our nervous system. It really can help with depression. So for those that are sitting at home and they're thinking, I'd love to rescue, I'd love to adopt, how do they go about doing that?
Well, if you're not here local to Paul Works, which we're based in LA, just go to your local shelter or rescue, touch base with them. A lot of the shelters right now are closed to the public, even with by appointment. But a lot of the rescues are still looking for fosters. They're looking for people to help them. As you know, finances for a lot of people have decreased. So, it doesn't cost anything to take one of these guys home when it comes to fostering. If you're looking to adopt, there is an adoption fee. But we provide everything when it comes to the foster. We provide the food, we provide the supplies, and it just kind of fulfills you. Puppies like this are definitely looking for their forever home. But we have some dogs that have been with us about 2 years that, they need this human touch and this socialization that we can provide at this time when we're all home.
Yeah, and I was just joking with one of our producers about the fact that I feel like I'm getting paler and paler because I'm not outdoors. And he was saying, well, I have dogs, and so they get me out. And so I think there's something beautiful about having a dog that's going to get you out into the fresh air, get some sunlight, some vitamin D.
100%. I mean, what's better self-isolation than taking a walk with your dog by yourself? I mean, it keeps you with your thoughts, it keeps you with your emotions, but at the same time, you're able to process things a little bit better. And, there's nothing wrong to talking to your dog.
Oh, I talk to my pets and my plants. So yes, they're my buddies. So talk to us about life after self-isolation, because I know I have a cat, and although people like to say that cats aren't very friendly, mine is. And we're spending a lot of time together, having a lot of deep late night conversations, and she's enjoying my presence. And I know that as soon as life opens up and returns, I'm going to not be as home as often. So what kind of acclimating process should we look for with our pets after all of this?
Well, I mean, I think you should be acclimating them now. Don't wait, because we don't know how long we're going to be in self-isolation and quarantine. So what we're recommending to adopters and fosters is act normal. Take a walk around the block without them. And then, the next hour, take a walk with them. We always recommend using crates. Because when you start working 6, 8, 10 hours a day, they need to be comfortable in a setting that you're not around. So we always say, put them in crates, leave them there while you're still at home and you're watching TV, or, take a walk outside. That way they get acclimated to the sounds around your neighborhood. And so it's not such a shock to their system when you do have to go back to work.
Okay. And then do you have any thoughts as to like temperaments? Should we be considering how we are characterologically as a person and what kind of pet we might want to choose?
I mean, 100%. I mean, you probably have heard that, after a while, your dog or your cat starts looking like you. So
What a lucky dog.
You really should choose an animal that fits your personality. If you're a runner, get a dog that's willing to be super active if that's what you want. If you're someone who likes to be at home and a homebody and just, sitting on the couch and having dinner, looks for someone who's lower energy. A lot of times people want a puppy to adopt, but realize this is like having a 2-year-old baby with you, where you have to feed constantly, you have to change their diapers or pick up their poop. They don't come potty trained. So you really should fit the animal into your lifestyle.
Okay. Those who want to join the conversation, you can always do so by tweeting at hashtag I'm listening, or by sending your questions into our DMs on our Loveline IG page. Chad Atkins, we have some questions that came in specifically for you when we were promoting that you're coming on the show. So I'd love for you to answer those with me. The first one for you asks, is it safe to take my dog to the dog park right now if I'm not standing around other people?
There's nothing out there right now saying that animals can pass. We have recently heard a report about cats being able to transmit coronavirus to other cats, but right now there's nothing that has been definitive. So I think it's 100% safe as long as you're practicing social distancing, you're wearing your mask, and you're sanitizing yourself and wiping your dog's paws down after you get back home. There is nothing unsafe about that.
I like what you just said about wiping the dog's paws down. I had not thought about that, but that has to be something really meaningful.
Well, yeah, they carry a lot of germs that people don't think about.
Yeah, God bless that one. Okay, here's another one we have for you. This one asks, I just got a puppy who needs to be socialized. How can I do that while social distancing?
Sadly, you can't. And I don't suggest it. Puppies, if they're not fully vaccinated, should not be out in public anyways, because they're not fully inoculated to protect themselves against the many diseases out there. But if you're able to, or you're comfortable with it, if you have family or friends, you can always drop them off at the house for, half an hour, so they get socialized with other people. Once they are available and you can, and we don't have to worry about social distancing, we're recommending 100 people in 100 days. And basically that means get your dog socialized with 100 different people of size, stature, race, anything you can think of. That way they are accustomed to anybody and everybody.
Bam. All right. We have one final question for you. This one asks, do service-trained dogs ever come up for adoption?
Not typically. Usually service-trained dogs will go back to the organization that has worked with them before. And these animals are trained very specifically for the person that they're going to. So it's very unlikely, and it's a process.
Okay. Chad Atkins, thank you so much. I know that there's so many pets that need a home. I'm actually going to now start recommending some of my patients that are at home alone to rescue a pet to keep them company. So thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Have an awesome night.
You too.
Again, we're in a difficult time and we're all looking for different resources and ways to cope. And here's another powerful one, getting a pet. As we just talked about, it can provide some methods of you feeling as though you have some level of comfort and socialization. It's good for the pet. It's good for you. Like I said, it gets you out of the house. And again, as I shared earlier, it's just been really healing for me to have some other presence and some energy moving throughout the home. So do consider adopting or rescuing a pet. There's so many that need homes. And I think it's something that'll be meaningful for you far after all this. Again, I'm listening. We're here to destigmatize mental health. I really want people to feel comfortable feeling what they're feeling and talking about it, because again, that's helpful for you to process in that way, but that also communicates to others that you are safe for them to come and do so. So please make yourself available to not only yourself, but to others. If you want to join the conversation, you can do so by tweeting at hashtag I'm listening. I have a question here, and this one asks, what are some suggestions for activities during this lockdown to help with anxiety? ready. Everything I do just makes me antsy and it's tough to sit still. Oh, it's a tough one. We have so much energy built up from not having all the normal activities in our lives, but also the energy from the small scale trauma of all that's happening around us. And so you're going to have to get a little comfortable with having some of that baseline energy being a little higher than maybe you're familiar. Again, we are allowed to go outdoors, so you can go for walks. And I'm a big fan of people engaging in some form of exercise and movement, not only for their physical and mental health, but also to dispel some of that energy. But we also have to learn how to sit and learn how to regulate and calm ourselves down. And I was talking about this on an earlier show. I'm not into this normally, but I've started doing puzzles. There's a lot of people talking about playing video games, ordering some really good books and sitting with them. Because again, I want people to think about their mental hygiene or mental fitness as well as their physical fitness. And so do things that are going to challenge you mentally. For some people, they want to go get an online degree. That's awesome, learn another language. But there are simpler things that are going to be intellectually stimulating. And I think some people need that muscle worked as well. And for me, that's reading, that's writing, that's puzzles. So consider something like that. I have a second question here. This one asks, living with 3 guys who are hard partiers, and we've been drinking every night for basically a month straight. I keep telling myself I won't drink with them anymore, but can never pass up when they tell me to join them. Any tips to break the habit? Yes. Please focus on breaking that habit. I don't sign off or support people that are starting their day and afternoon, saying it's 3 p.m. time to drink. I think it's a really horrible habit. I think it's a really problematic coping mechanism, and it's not going to make you feel any better. In fact, it's going to make you feel worse and negatively impact your immune system. So right now, living with people, we're having to have adult, honest conversations. So I do think it might be meaningful to sit them down and say, hey, listen, I don't think that collectively we're supporting the best in each other. Let's maybe try to find some activities that don't involve drinking. And if they're not on board with that, it's okay. Say to them, hey, can you at least support me in not wanting to drink? And if I say no and set a boundary, honor that. And if that doesn't work, you might have to take some time away. All right, right now let's go to Katie Morton, licensed therapist and author. Katie, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being a part of this. I wanted to have this conversation for days now. A lot of people on social media are reaching out, and also just in my own practice, and they're encountering their bodies and food and diet culture in a really different way. Just, I guess, help us unpack what would be the entry point of the narrative that people would want to have around that right now.
Yeah, I think the thing that people often forget is that eating disorders aren't like just a vain thing. It's not something we do because we want to look a certain way. It's actually a coping skill. And what are we dealing with right now? We're dealing with a lot of stress and anxiety and upset about what's going on. And so I think that keeping that in mind, you can see, so that's happening. And then we're told to not leave our houses very often. So instead of maybe just having the foods that you would normally eat, meal prepping or whatever helps you feel safe and better, we have a ton of different foods that can stay on our shelves a lot longer, which might be triggering, might cause us to want to binge at night, right? We're kind of just out of our regular routine and super stressed out.
Okay, so talk about the tension in that, because there's the whole narrative of, let loose, let go a little bit, allow yourself to maybe consume things you're not most comfortable with or a little bit more. But then we also are saying eat nutrient dense food and be thoughtful about what you're eating so as to boost your immune system. So how do we hold both, or how do people kind of navigate that piece?
I think what I strive for with my patients and with my viewers is intuitive eating. I know it's really hard, but it's just check in with yourself. There's no right or wrong. It's not all good or all bad. We can't really be black and white with things. So it's okay to have a bite of a brownie, but that shouldn't be all you're eating. You should also be able to have vegetables, fruits, things that are healthy, vitamin C rich, things that are good for your immune system. I think when we allow ourselves the ability to eat kind of whatever we want, you'll be surprised. Your body will tell you what it wants, and we won't be overdoing it on either end.
And I like that. I love new intuitive eating as well. And I think now we're left with ourselves in such an honest, vulnerable way. It's like now's the time to maybe really try to learn how to reconnect to those messages from our body. What a beautiful thing to try to practice.
Of course. Yeah. Like mindfulness is something that, unfortunately, for some people who really don't like it, we have all these opportunities to do it. So I would really encourage people, like you said, just tap in, pay attention, notice, because I have my patients, especially with eating disorder backgrounds, check in emotionally and hunger fullness before you eat. So how am I doing? Am I on a scale of 1 being I'm calm and good, 10 being like I'm going to rip my hair out? is emotions, where am I at? And then hunger, fullness. Number one, am I like so hungry I'd like kill you for food? Or 10, so full I'm afraid I might, if I bend over, I'll throw up. Check in with ourselves like before we eat and after we eat, just to, be more aware.
It's been powerful for me, right? We're humans and we're doing our own work. And I know I'll have a stressful day and I come home and I have to ask myself, what am I feeling? Like you just said, am I tired? Am I hungry? Is there another way to get that need met? Is it really about needing nourishment? So it's been interesting myself just having that journey.
Yeah, one of the best acronyms I use, I do a lot of what's called dialectical behavior therapy, which is really just a way of saying it's CBT, like your thoughts become your beliefs, become your actions, and we kind of go round and around. It's like that plus an emotion regulation component. And one of the biggest acronyms I use within DBT is called HALT, and it stands for hungry, angry, lonely, tired. You can't make good decisions with any of those things being out of whack. So just checking in is really important. And I think often in life, when we're able to leave our homes and engage in regular connections with people, we can distract from tapping in. And so I know it's uncomfortable at first, but it does get more comfortable as we do it, is just checking in. How are we doing? Are we lonely? We might be. Are we hungry? Have we slept well? Those are all things we should all be striving to do a little bit better of a job, on right now.
And then how about those memes? How are you tackling that with your patients? I'm telling people to do a lot of unfollowing because there's a lot of people posting the really fat phobic triggering memes about how our bodies are going to look and fat is a feeling. How are you tackling that?
Same. I tell people to mute and unfollow easily. And if it is someone that's close to you who is doing that, I think it's okay. And I would actually encourage conversations around it, because the less we can be fat phobic, the less we can be shaming of, binge eating, under eating, overeating. Exercise is everywhere. It's a super triggering environment. And so I think it is, if you are close to this person, it is appropriate to have a real conversation about it. Like, hey, consider, me and my struggles, consider that before you post. I would really be, so grateful. Also knowing we can't control anyone else. We can only control ourselves. So if they're like, you're being ridiculous, it's okay to unfollow or mute for the time being until we kind of get out of this quarantine state that we're in.
Yeah, I'm thankful we have the mute and unfollow because, again, it can just create such an unhealthy environment to constantly be swimming in the fitness ads and the food commentary and the memes. So we have some questions that came in, and I'd love for you to answer them with me. The first one that came in asks, this isolation has me leaning on food for support. I used to have issues with binging, and though I haven't been binging, I am afraid soon it will come to that. How do I prevent?
I mean, my first knee-jerk reaction is find a way to process what you're feeling. We're all in it. I think that is a good thing, connecting with other people. We all kind of know what you're going through one way or another, but find a way to process it for you. Is that calling that friend that really knows that part of you that you can just talk it out? Tell them what's going on, how you feel. Is it your therapist? Should you schedule an extra session just to kind of get that off your chest? Maybe it's journaling, whatever we can do to process all the anxiety, grief, anger, any kind of upset we're experiencing. I think you'll feel a lot better, and then you won't want to turn to food to cope.
Yeah, and I love that you brought up therapy. I'm trying to bring that up more on the show and remind people that therapists are still available and working. They can do it via, Skype, Zoom, phone calls. So to really take advantage of that if you're feeling like you're struggling on your own.
Yeah, definitely. We're all still working, if not more than ever.
We have another question I'd love for you to answer with us. This one asks, I'm trying to eat healthy during all of this, but my boyfriend shames me. He's been eating junk, and when I say I don't want any, he mocks me and says, go eat your salad. I'm too embarrassed to tell him I had an eating disorder growing up. So what do I do?
Ooh, that's tricky. I would encourage you to share if you're comfortable, obviously everything in your own time, but I think it is important in our close relationships that we share about our past struggles so that they're aware. I know, I would assume if he knew, he wouldn't say things like that. And I know that we wish people didn't talk that way about food, that there's good and bad, and you're trying to do what's right for your body. But I would encourage you to have that conversation if you feel safe to do so. And if not, I think it's okay to just say, hey, with everything going on that's just feels chaotic, this feels good. This is one thing I can do that feels good for me. And I support you, eating pizza and brownies or whatever you want. And I would hope that you could support me doing what I think's best for me. and just leaving it there.
And I just want to lovingly call out people that might be listening that are the boyfriend. Don't run a commentary on the methods that people are utilizing to try to take care of themselves. I'm telling everyone, like, be a little more caring and compassionate and back off of what they're doing exercise or movement wise or eating wise, right? Like, we need to just kind of worry more about ourselves right now.
I agree. Compassion, we need to really tap into that compassion because we're not ourselves. Life is not normal and people are doing their best to survive. And the really the best thing we can do is connect with them and show some love and compassion.
Beautiful. Katie Morton, thank you so much for being a part of the show. Have a great night.
Yeah, thanks for having me. You too.
Bye-bye. And I love that message. We're like Katie was saying, we're all struggling. This is not our standard mode of functioning. We're utilizing coping mechanisms that are maybe not familiar to us or that we struggle with. We're doing the best we can. Try to have care and compassion for both yourself, but also those around you. And not everyone's been able to feel safe being vulnerable, maybe express to you their history with problematic use of drugs or alcohol or food or exercising. And so just be very thoughtful when we talk about and discuss, but also, like we were saying, with what you post, because for some, social media is their method of getting news or social distraction or socialization. And we don't want people to have to keep encountering messages that reflect back that there's a right way to look or a certain way that we need to look coming out of this or eat or foods are good or bad. And, just care and compassion. I'm listening. Stay Connected works to destigmatize mental health. And that's what we're trying to do tonight. Give you facts and tips and tools, but also just to remind you that we're here, we're listening, and mental health matters. If you want to join the conversation, you can do so at any point by tweeting at #I'mListening, or you can send your questions to the Loveline DM page, and we'll be answering those on our show. I have some questions here for me. This one asks, I know it's horrible to say, but I'm loving isolation and working from home. Well, good for you. Good for you. Is it bad to tell friends who are really struggling with this that I'm doing well? I almost feel guilty. I appreciate what you're saying. I've worked with some patients and I've had days myself where I'm thriving. I've cognitively put everything in the right place and I'm feeling good with what's happening. And I want us to be able to celebrate that. But more importantly, I want those in your life to be able to be happy for you and celebrate that for you. Like, hey, I'm glad you're thriving in whatever means you are. And so, I like that you're wanting to be a little cautious about making other people feel bad, but I want those around you to be able to celebrate that. So maybe it's a private celebration you have with yourself. You don't need to necessarily maybe blast that on your social media, but it's okay for you to personally feel good about where you are and what you're doing. What's happening right now, we're taking it seriously, but again, it's okay to find joy or purpose in what's happening right now. In fact, I want that for everyone. So it's a reminder to those watching and listening, try to find the joy. There are a lot of things that are happening. It's heartbreaking to see the deaths and the people struggling. But if you can find moments where you can find peace, joy, and ground yourself, hold on to that, celebrate that. It's a beautiful thing, especially in a time like this. I have another question. This one asks, I had my first panic attack in 5 years yesterday because I'm so bored and I'm used to living fast pace. How does someone who's always going slow down and just chill? I'm finding it nearly impossible. I'm with you on that one. I am someone who's always operating at a high speed, go, go, go. A lot of us are. Again, this is a newfound relationship that we're having with some experiences and emotions. I'm having people that are reaching out to me saying, I've never been depressed, and yet I'm hitting a lot of depression. I've never had anxiety, and yet I'm constantly not feeling calm in my body. And so again, it's about doing what we can. I'm telling people, start your day with a plan. That will make your day have some structure and routine and normalcy. That also will help reduce some of the anxiety. You know what the day is going to look like. Try to have control around what you have control around, which is how your day is going to go, what you're going to force yourself or allow yourself to encounter in terms of news and social media. Get out of the house and move your body. That's a great way to dispel some of that pent up nervous energy. Again, we're doing the best we can. So hydrate, get that sleep, get that movement, stay connected, reach out to people, and know that this isn't forever and this isn't the new way that you're always going to encounter the world. So hang in there. Coming up on our next show, we got Gregory Zarion. He's an actor from Westworld. Great show. We're going to be talking about mental health, how we're all encountering it. Thanks for hanging out with us. Remember to reach out to those around you. Feel your feelings. Give them a safe space to feel their feelings. You guys have an awesome night, and thanks for hanging out with me.